So yeah, the next thing we're going to talk about is Resident Evil 4 Remake, which Tony is the really big Resident Evil fan. So,
Yeah.
but I know you've told me that Resident Evil 4, I know you used to play it a lot, but now you
Oh
are
yeah.
not a huge fan of it.
Yeah.
And I think you were mainly saying
I grew out of it.
you grew out of it. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I think your main complaint was kind of what other people have said is how this game was kind of the beginning of the downfall of Resident Evil, right? Where it's became more of an action game than a horror survival horror.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that I could say, even with Leon as a character. I was just saying to myself a few days ago, I'm like, yeah, they kind of made Leon into James Bond. And like, yeah, it's funny. Like in that game, it's the further you progress in it, especially when you get to the island, it starts to feel like an espionage like film.
Mhm.
It doesn't feel like a Resident Evil game in some ways. Like, I mean, it does. I mean, it has like there's the item box, there's the save room, there's all that stuff there. But I mean, overall, as a game, it starts to really like change.
Yeah,
I mean,
Tom Cruise is Leon, basically.
No doubt, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
This
Yep.
guy doing like all the crazy stunts and like jumping out the windows and doing like all these cool fancy poses and shit. So it's like definitely a big departure from the first couple games. But yeah, obviously a lot of people consider it a classic game also. So it's interesting. I personally I was playing this game a couple weeks ago with Twiggy, and basically that was kind of my first time actually playing the game. I probably played like about 2 hours of it, and of course at this point, it's like the controls are pretty hard to play. Even though this is considered modern for like the time, I mean, as opposed to the tank controls and everything.
Well, that's the thing. It still is tank controls. It's just the camera. The camera is just behind you. It's still the same control scheme.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
I never thought about that until I saw a tweet a few years ago about someone was like, "Oh yeah, everyone complains about tank controls, but when they play Resident Evil 4, they say, that game plays fine." And it's like, well, it is still tank controls. It's just the camera angle. There's no camera angles anymore. That's a lot easier to play. Before
that's 100% it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because before it was like, you would be holding up to run. You'd be running this way, and then the camera would change.
Yeah, down is up is down. Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of course, the enemies coming at you from off screen, you can't see what you're shooting at, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it definitely did have still the, like you couldn't move and shoot at the same time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it was a lot of like that start-stop stuff. So it basically... it's kind of like a balance with Resident Evil where it's like if you want to keep that scary vibe to it, you kind of have to have like these ways of kind of maybe slowing down the combat a little bit, like making it so that the zombies don't have to be running and they can just be like, okay, like you gotta like slow the combat down a little bit so that they they have more of a chance to get at you and stuff like that. Just like in the Resident Evil 2 remake, where they kind of, I think they let you move around a little bit, right? With that,
you can walk and shoot. I mean, that game has the like perfect for like a third person over the shoulder game. Like they pretty much figured it out. Like the mobility in that game is perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with that one, if I remember right from playing the demo and stuff, it was like you could move, but like the more you moved, or if you moved too fast, like it would be like your aim would get really fucked up. So it was it was basically like you kind of almost had to stay still to get a good shot in. You know what I mean?
Of course.
So like that was kind of like the advantage of staying still, but like obviously in some spots, you'd be getting kind of like ransacked by multiple enemies at once. So you wouldn't really be able to stand still. And of course there's the whole like classic Resident Evil, like just needing to run past a lot of enemies because you don't have the ammo to fight them and everything.
No doubt.
So it's interesting at this point because you got the Resident Evil fans who are big fans like you of the first couple games, and then like at this point Resident Evil 4 is, how old is this game? Is this 2004? When did this come out?
2005. So it was 17 years. It'll be 18 years next year.
Goddamn. Okay.
Yeah.
So so a pretty old game, and at this point, just like you grew up with like Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, There's people that grew up with like this was their
this was their first their first game. Yeah.
So it's like there's definitely going to be at this point a legion of people that are like, oh, Resident Evil 4, that was my first game, and they're going to have that nostalgia for it, you know.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, so it's interesting how, you know, now they kind of got to, I guess, find a bit of a balance there where it's like, all right, you have the fans from the Resident Evil, you know, 2 and 3 remakes, you know, you got new fans from that, of the whole survival horror aspect. Then of course they have the whole like, you know, PT ripoff of the 7 and 8 now, you know what I mean, of that kind of Resident Evil. Yeah. So you kind of got multiple versions. It's like, I would say there's almost like 3 different types of Resident Evil now. You got that. You got the action comedy bullshit from like 6 and like 5 and 6 basically. Then you got Resident Evil 4 is still like, it's silly, but it's not quite as silly as 5 and 6. It's more
there's 3 categories now, or I should say there's almost like 3 different fan bases for Resident Evil fandom, at least the way I view it. You have the fixed camera angle fan base. That's me. You have the over the shoulder fan base. That's the, you know, I would say the generation that's a little younger than me. Even people that are around my age or a little older, like people that enjoyed the game, they still liked it. And then you have the first person fan base, which is the Resident Evil 7 and Village. So they basically like, that's how I feel. I feel that it's like, it is kind of separated. It's not, I like all types of gameplay, but because I came up with the original, I just prefer it that way, you know, for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely hear that. So you would say still that you're still a fan of the fixed camera angle. You like that better than behind the, like, even like the Resident Evil 2 remake. You would still prefer it to be fixed.
Yeah, I would actually, because especially now, because there's not many games that do it anymore.
Okay.
It's literally like the only way you're gonna get it is from an indie game. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I see it now. It's literally like almost a relic of its time, you know?
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm still curious about this one because I am just like, you know, from the standpoint of like, I just want to see what's different about it, if they've done anything as far as like changing it up like they did for Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
So from your standpoint, like, if you want to just talk for a minute about like what you liked and what you didn't like about Resident Evil 4, the original, and what you hope that this one changes.
Okay, so the first would be I would like to see some story plot changes in the game, but I don't believe there's going to be a lot. It looks like from what I've watched, I have seen a little bit of the gameplay videos that they've revealed. I've watched the second trailer, and it looks like it's almost a shot for shot of the original and remake. Like, basically, they're taking a lot of what was already there, and obviously with the new graphics and bells and whistles they got going on with this new one. But yeah, I would definitely, I mean, you know, whenever I do get to play it, I would love to see some story changes. That would be good. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone who's never played it, but that would be one. The other thing would be I would like to see some, maybe more of Ada Wong in the game. Like, maybe there's a new scenario or something where you could play with her, you know, play as her in the game. And just a longer scenario. Like, they had something like that in the original that was called Separate Ways. That was cool. I remember
that. Yeah, I played a little bit of that.
Yeah, but I would definitely like to see maybe if they have like something different they could do with that. That'd be cool too. And I think more than anything would be horror being like kind of the main focus, if they could do that. I've seen some, again, watching the gameplay videos, I did see it looks like it's definitely darker than the original in some ways. So yeah. So
in what ways would you say that it's more like darker?
I would say that, well, first off, the enemies definitely do look creepier. I would say that they're just like more damage on the body. They just, you know, there's like a part you'll see when you watch the gameplay. There's a part where there's a man that comes down the stairs and he's like, his neck is like totally
twisted
like to one side.
I saw that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I was just like, okay. I'm like, yeah, this is like something we didn't see really with some of the enemies. At least with the villagers. The villagers were, to me, for the most part, just funny.
Yeah,
in the original.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it looks like now I would say they're more intimidating looking, and that's what I was hoping for. So I'm sure there's going to definitely be some cool surprises in the remake from what I'm seeing so far. You know.
So if you had to, all right, like, because you kind of know, like you said, that this is going to be a shot for shot thing at this point.
Yeah.
A couple things thrown in. So like,
yeah,
it looks a lot like the Last of Us remake, which, you know, I know we both kind of agreed is like, I'm not paying $70 for this shit if it's literally like a shot for shot remake. Better graphics.
Yeah.
You know I mean, like, because the original remaster looks pretty damn good already. So I'm like, yeah, that was like that was like a fantasy if they really thought that like a ton of people were going to pay $70 for that. I'm really interested to see, like, in a month or so, like, what the sales are for that game, like, if it actually sold well at that price. Because I know for Resident Evil 4, I think we were just talking about how this is going to be $60, right? It's not going to be 70.
Yeah.
So it's going to be $60, and it's also going to be because up to this point, wasn't it that Horizon Forbidden West was like the last game that had the free PS5 upgrade?
Yeah, that was on Sony's end. So, any of the Sony exclusives, for Horizon Forbidden West was the last free upgrade from Sony. Anything else after that, just like with Gran Turismo 7 or any of the other games, if you bought the PS4 version, you want to upgrade to the PS5, you would have to pay an extra $10, unless it was like a Ghost of Tsushima situation where they had the director's cut and they were charging for like at least either 20 for PS4 or 30 for PS5.
Okay.
So that was the only time where I saw like a really big jump, but because I like the game so much, I was like, yeah, I'll splurge and, you know, buy it because I like it. But I would say, when it comes to the upgrade process, as far as I know with Sony, that's what they're doing. But most of the third-party developers are pretty smart about it, and they usually allow you to do it for free.
Okay. Yeah, so, it's cool of them to at least, be offering it at 60 instead of 70 and also have a free PS5 upgrade, so that's pretty cool. But,
no doubt.
Yeah, so, what was I going to say after that? You gave your thoughts about what you like and dislike about the original. Alright, so what I was going to ask is, if you this is going to be very shot for shot, it seems like, with a little bit of changes here and there, but like if you had to create your own version of Resident Evil 4, like what would you change? What would be like? Would you just like eliminate all of the campiness? Would you eliminate, like, how would you? Do you think that this game could? I'll ask it this way: like, do you think this game could be made into like an actually serious game without the camp, or is it like the game is just, it's kind of like tied into it where you can't really escape the camp, like some of the later James Bond movies, you know what I mean?
I think that's a good point. I don't think you can escape the camp because of a lot of the design choices for like the bosses and everything.
Okay.
You would have to remove Salazar. You would have to remove Sadler, I think. I mean, I don't know. Sadler, I think you can keep, but I mean, it's the one-liners and stuff. Like, that's the thing. The game in the community, like, the game is like kind of, it's always, anytime anyone brings up the game, it's either about the merchant, there's certain lines, of course, that are said in the game. Like, it's like the campiness is like kind of like what makes the game, I guess you could say. But of course, my first time playing it, I was just like, oh, this is such a departure from, Raccoon City being overrun by zombies and like survivors like running for their lives. You know what I mean? That type of thing. Yeah. Resident Evil 4, this definitely was a big derail of what was going on in the other games. But the one thing I also like to mention is some of the settings. Like, I think the castle area, it gets kind of boring after a while. Like, my favorite part in Resident Evil 4 and the original Resident Evil 4 is the village. Okay. Like, once you get out of it, the game starts to kind of become a drag. Like, there's just a lot of areas in the game where, especially if you played it as many times as I have, because I do enjoy the gameplay, but again, it's like one of those things. Like I said, as I've gotten older and looking back, I'm realizing where I am at this point with this franchise, like what I really like, and that's probably because of where things are going now. I look at this game like, this is where all these ideas they kind of started. Yeah.
And I guess because probably I'm trying to think, like, up to this point, I guess Resident Evil 4 probably was like the biggest selling of all of them, right?
You know what? I actually think yeah, it definitely it's got to be, if it's not the most or the best selling Resident Evil, it's got to be number 2. I think if I'm correct, I think Resident Evil 5 was considered the best selling at the time. And I think that was due to all the fans everyone who fell in love with Resident Evil 4. We know for a fact that this game is absolutely always brought up the most when Resident Evil's talked about. So I would say that you know, I think the reason why that happened, if that is the case, I mean, I would have to look at it again, but I do remember seeing something about Resident Evil 5 being the best-selling Resident Evil game, and I think it has a lot to do with, all the fandom that came from Resident Evil 4.
Okay.
And everyone was running to the hills to get this game, and so, of course, when Resident Evil 5 is like, it's an okay game, but yeah. So that's kind of like what happened, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, I would say at this point, just because the game has been remade, I mean, not remade, but, like, it's literally sold on every console that ever existed at this point, basically, right?
Yeah.
And, like, everybody, I know you've probably rebought it a few times, and I think...
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Yeah, and, like, a lot of people, like, especially people who like the game, have rebought it on, like, I mean, it was on everything. It was on, I think it was on Xbox, PS2, then it was on, like, I mean, how many consoles has it been on?
It was on the iPhone. Remember that?
Yeah, the iPhone version.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. It was literally on everything. Yeah, it's been on. Yeah, so if you think about it, we're going back from the GameCube, PS2 era all the way up to now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a lot of generations. Yeah.
Oh yeah. The other thing I was gonna say is.
Last thing I'll mention. I would remove Ashley. She is annoying as hell.
Yeah, that is true. I was gonna say, like, I know everybody complains about the escort missions with Ashley for sure.
Yeah, I'll say that I would rather have more story with Luis than Ashley. Like, because Luis, like, he's in. I don't want to spoil anything, but he's not in the game for that long. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And I would definitely, in this game, I hope he has a longer stay. Let's just, I would say that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I've only seen like glimpses of that guy. I think when I was playing, I had like just met the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this other thing I was gonna say is, and also of course you were saying, like that's kind of what I was saying. It's like I think that you really couldn't make that game like serious. You'd have to remove so many like lame characters like Salazar and
that's
what
that's the problem to me with the game is that like Jack Krauser is another character who I think he's cool, but there needs to be more backstory, and I know, of course, like if you want to go play like the Dark Side Chronicles and all that, you can get some kind of backstory in the game, backstory for that character. But I would like in this game maybe they can do some flashbacks or something with him and Leon. Which would be cool.
I think is the best way to do Krauser is I think you need to replace him with Steven Seagal and have Steven Seagal be Krauser. That would be like the ultimate way to fix this game. That would just be amazing.
Yeah.
So I kind of think the same way. It's like I really don't think you could change this game that much. I think it's like if you tried to make like Die Another Day James Bond. It's like if you tried to be like I'm gonna make a Daniel Craig gritty version of that game or that movie rather, where like it's like we gotta have the scene like with the terrible CGI where he's like surfing or like the tsunami and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you probably couldn't really. You'd have to change you have to change so much that it would just be a brand new.
It wouldn't be a remake anymore. I mean, it would be called a reimagining at that point. Like, if they wanted to do, like, what Resident Evil 3.5 was going to be, with, like, there's the hallucinations with the ghost and all that, that looked like very horror-centric, kind of theme that they were going for. If they did that, I mean, it still was out there from what Resident Evil was known for, but I think, at that point, it's not a remake anymore. Now it's a reimagining of the game, so like you said, they can't really escape it. All they can do is make some minor adjustments, I think, where the fans, like the diehard fans of this game, don't get upset, but the change is good enough for like someone like me who wasn't too big of a fan of it. Maybe we'll walk away from it and be like, you know what, I like it a little better now. You know what I mean, than I did before.
Definitely. Yep. And at least hopefully they can make the gameplay like a little better and stuff. So at least from that aspect, it's more fun,
Yeah, I think it should be with the obviously with Resident Evil 2 remake and 3, they obviously, like I said, they figured out how to make a third person over the shoulder shooter game like that work. So those controls you can see are definitely going to be in there. It looks like there's some new stuff too coming up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and that's the one thing I'll say too is like I played over your place. I played Resident Evil. Is it Resident Evil 8 Village, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I played that, and of course, it's not the greatest game. Yeah, I know you have issues with it too. It's definitely very silly for sure. But like the one thing I'll say is like when I played the demo when I was playing it at your place is like that game is fun to play. Like despite the whole like story, it's like despite the story, it's like the graphics are good. Like especially that initial village looks really cool. So there's like some redeeming qualities if you're if you're just a gamer and you're not somebody who's like, oh, I really care about this story. So it's like at least hopefully from that aspect for people who find their normal story corny, that at least it'll be fun to play,
Exactly. Yeah.
So and the last thing I was going to talk about is I know you had mentioned this whole thing with Ada's actress being changed. So
which is a bummer.
So what do you know about that exactly? Like what's going on with that?
To be honest, I don't know a lot other than that. I know the original voice actor from Resident Evil 2 remake is she's no longer on this project. Okay. And that I have heard that it's Lily Gao who played as Ada Wong in Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, the movie. I don't know if that's true, though. That could be another one of those IMDb things where someone put that there as like a placeholder. I don't know. Yeah. So I'm not sure who is replacing Ada's voice for Resident Evil 4 Remake. Okay. But I am bummed out by that, though, because I really, really loved her voice in for Resident Evil 2 remake. She what's her? I believe it's Jolene Anderson. She did a great job.
Okay. Yeah. When I'm googling this now, it says the reboot film. Yeah, Lily Gao is who's playing her. All right, so let's see what this article says. All right, so Resident Evil 4 remake, Ada Wong voice controversy explained. All right, we're like 5 paragraphs in, and you haven't said anything about this yet. All right, Jolene Anderson provided the voice for the English language version of Ada in 2019's Resident Evil 2. So many thought it's strange when rumors began to circulate that she wouldn't be making a comeback for Resident Evil 4. Well, the full cast of Resident Evil 4 hasn't been confirmed yet. Gamers now know that Lily Gao will replace Anderson in the role of Ada for the upcoming game. While the Chinese-born Canadian actress seems like a better fit for the Chinese-American Ada, some felt the race shouldn't be necessarily a deciding factor. However, it remains a fact that representation in video games is problematic and not having accurate portrayals, blah, blah, blah. Another issue is that some fans that Lily Gao played Ada in the critically derided live-action film, Welcome to Raccoon City, which... after all these months, what is your thoughts on that movie, by the way? I'm just curious. Like, what do you think about it now that it's been a while?
It's a good popcorn flick to watch.
Okay. Yeah.
Again, like I said, I think my favorite part in that movie is, it's not for a very long time, but with Chris Redfield fighting, dozens of zombies in a dark room.
Yeah, that was cool. With the gunshots going off and everything.
Yeah, that's probably like my favorite part in the entire movie. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's honestly like one of the only things I can remember from that movie, besides from like the fat captain guy.
Chief Irons. Yeah, which was also they definitely did his character dirty because Chief Irons is like a really interesting character to me. Just because of how crazy he is, and I urge anyone to play the original Resident Evil 2 from 1998 to at least get like the beginnings of like where how this character was created, and just to see like what they did with his character, even like reading the files and everything. And I mean, they did a pretty good job in the remake with him, but I really prefer the original just because like they did a really good job again making him a crazy man. And in a crazy time. No doubt. No.
And of course, in that movie, Leon was terrible. I can't believe what they did to Leon in that movie.
I mean, I probably should have mentioned that first. They totally slaughtered his character. I mean, he's just a buffoon in that movie.
Absolutely buffoon. Like, it's just like ridiculous. Like, they really should have just made him like a different. They just called him something different. Like, just made him a different character. Yeah. They're gonna make him that ridiculous. Yeah, doesn't I'm trying to like didn't he like wasn't even able to like shoot a gun or anything? Like there was like some scenes in there where it was just this guy's so ridiculous.
It's like they went from being just like he's a rookie to where it's like he's below a rookie. Like he doesn't know. He knows nothing.
Like, wasn't there a scene where like the one guy's in the cell and he's like, "Yo, come on, help me out" or whatever? Then the other guy's like slowly turning into a zombie and he's just like he's like taking forever to help him out and he just gets eaten. It was like really hilarious.
There's it's funny because like I don't even care about ruining this movie for anyone. Like
honestly, like if you were gonna see it, you saw it already.
We're saving you from wasting an hour.
All right. In the future, I'll try to remember to be like, all right, we're going to talk about some spoilers here. But honestly, I don't think anybody gives a fuck about spoilers for this movie, especially because if you've already played, I mean, the original, Resident Evil 2 and 3 and 1, they've been out for so long now, and this movie basically just retells that, right? Like, there's really nothing new about it.
It does a bad job retelling all of it because they try to smash everything together.
They try to smash. What is it? Is it 1, 2, and 3, or just 2 and 3, or which ones are they trying to throw together?
They wrote the first movie and the second. Oh, the first game and the second game. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And my other question is, did they change Ada's face? Like,
no, luckily they get the good thing, I am happy about that. They kept the same model from Resident Evil 2 Remake, so that's awesome.
Okay.
It's just, again, her voice actor was perfect. Who knows what really happened behind the scenes, but I wish they would have kept her.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, so real quick, last thing, Resident Evil 4. I just wanted to quickly.
Watch the gameplay. Trailer.
So this is extended gameplay trailer. I haven't seen this yet. Have you seen this yet, Tom?
I've watched a little bit of it. I don't think I've seen the beginning though.
Okay. Yeah. So this is from the beginning here.
Anyone home?
Okay, so I don't remember this like basement in the original game. Is this new here, do you think?
It looks like the house is bigger than the original.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely don't remember a basement.
Okay.
There's no basement in the first home that you enter.
Okay.
Yeah, like this is what I was saying. Like this looks cool. Like I like this. Yeah, I don't know how long they can keep this kind of, aesthetic throughout the rest of the game. But for right now, it looks cool.
Yeah. Like you were saying, so they kind of changed the style up to be more like the Resident Evil 3.5. Or whatever.
Yeah. Even with his jacket and stuff, which is cool. His outfit is definitely more closer to that version of Leon. Yeah.
This the hair looks very realistic.
Yeah.
Hey, graphically, I would definitely say the game looks good.
Oh yeah, it looks really good. Yeah, you can see here too that they're adding like stealth elements in the game.
Okay.
And it looks like they took that from Resident Evil Village, where you can like duck and stuff. So that's definitely new in this game. Yeah.
Bruce, this is Condor 1.
Hunnigan here. What's your sit rep?
President's daughter, Baby Eagle. It's likely she's in this village.
Our intel was correct then. Well done.
Something's happened to the people here. My escorts are...
And this is the same voice actor for Resident Evil 2 Remake, right?
Yeah, for Leon, yep.
Okay. Yeah, I remember this part.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, like I almost want to like find the video I have uploaded on my channel of like when we were playing this. But I just remember like if you stood at like this part in the original game, like they just kept like there was like only like 3 lines of dialogue that the guys kept saying. But like, yeah. Like I can't remember what they said, but like they were just like one of the guys was just like saying like some curse like over and over again. But like it was just like Yeah, and there's like some other shit that they were saying, but like I was just like the longer it went on, I was just dying laughing.
Like funny.
So like we were just dying laughing, just like sitting there, and then I was like, all right, again, these guys are so cheap.
Yeah, it's funny.
Like it's just funny because he's just like moving the plow around and just like screaming at the top of his lungs, like cursing. I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah.
So funny.
The good old days.
Yeah.
I love this part where he lights the cow on fire. I feel bad for the cow.
Oh shit. Oh wow. He'll be for the repairs. Wow. Yeah, it's fucked up. Fucking sirloin steak now.
Yeah.
I remember this part in the game.
Yeah.
This part got pretty crazy.
Yeah, like all of this is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Of course, it looks really good. But yeah, this is straight up like shot for shot. From the original. Yeah.
Were they able to do that in the original, where they could grab you?
Oh yeah, that was there. Yeah, I don't know about grabbing from behind, but yeah, of course from the front like that. Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, chicken is just chilling. Alright, blocking a chainsaw with a knife, that's definitely pretty campy,
Yeah, that's, I first saw that. I think when I was watching his gameplay, I was skipping through it a little bit, and like, I got to that part, and I was like, yeah, it still hasn't changed too much.
Yeah, it's definitely campy still.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alright, so, yeah, that about wraps it up for Resident Evil 4 so far.
Yeah.
So... Alright, continuing through, I'll just mention real quick, because I do have in here about Resident Evil Code Veronica.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about Resident Evil 4, I just figured to mention that real quick. But let me open that up here for everybody to see. So, during an interview with Noisy Pixel, Resident Evil 4 remake producer Yoshiaki Hirabayashi was asked directly about the odds of Code Veronica getting his chance in the sun, and while it wasn't exactly positive, he also wasn't shutting the door. Hirabayashi-san responded that his focus is currently on the development of Resident Evil 4 Remake, making that is the best experience for fans. He continued that there are no concrete plans to develop Resident Evil Code Veronica Remake, but if the opportunity comes, maybe. Okay, so this is just very much like a, not saying
just
no
more,
thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not exactly like confirming anything, but of course it's like, I'm sure if these keep selling well, they're going to keep making them.
Yep.
And so, all right. As opposed to Resident Evil 4, would you say that you like Resident Evil Code Veronica better?
Yeah, I would definitely say so, just because it's still traditional in the way it plays.
Okay.
And that of course goes with the camera, fixed camera angles are still in there. I like Claire as a character, so that I was definitely. I think that's the other thing I like about Code Veronica is that it's still in the Raccoon City timeline. So the game takes place 2 months after the Raccoon City incident.
Okay.
And it's Claire searching for her brother. Obviously, she was doing that in the second game, but this is her like finding his exact location in Europe to I guess not just bring him back, but help him because he's obviously trying to fight on Umbrella not by himself, but regardless, she obviously has lost contact with him and she's trying to find him. And that's what I like about Code Veronica is that it's still in that timeline where it's like it's not. You can really say that is like the finisher of the Raccoon City incident in a way. Even though the city's like gone, it's like it still takes place around that time. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I would say the main thing I remember that game is the Steve Burnside guy who everybody hates.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they would have to do a lot of reworking. I mean, it wouldn't take them that much to do the change. I mean, because you know he doesn't have that many lines in there, but yeah, he's definitely a jokester. There's no doubt about that.
For sure.
Yeah.
So is that something that you would like to see? Would you like to see a remake of that game?
Oh yeah, no doubt. Just because there were some cool boss fights in the game. And there's a lot they can do with Wesker in that game.
Okay.
There's more they can add to it that in the original they didn't do. Especially the organization he's with at that time. They don't really talk a lot about like who he's with at that moment. And it's the first time you see him as like a superhuman. You know what I mean? So there's like a lot of things they could do with that, but I would definitely like to see a Code Veronica remake. If they want, I mean, it looks like they're remaking everything at this point, so who knows how far they'll go. But no, Code Veronica is deserving because it came out in 2000, so it's a 22-year-old game at this point. It could definitely use a graphical upgrade, but more than anything, they can do more with the story. And I would definitely be looking forward to that if they mentioned it, or I should say they committed to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, real quick, is that the first time in the series that they showed that Wesker was resurrected, that he wasn't dead or whatever?
Yeah,
okay.
That is. It is the first time. Yep. Yeah.
All right, yeah. So that about does it for the Resident Evil 4 stuff and all that. Right. All right. So next we're going to talk a little bit about Silent Hill 2 remake, which I know Tony's definitely excited about. He's a big fan of the series, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So,
this looks good.
Yeah, it's interesting because I have literally just started playing this game, like, what was it, like a week and a half ago when we were playing this, I think, Tone? Right?
Yeah.
So I was checking it out for the first time on the PCSX2 emulator in 4K. It definitely was cool on there.